Good morning, Middle Earth. It's Jesse Swift and Scott Fox here to review another episode of The Rings of Power, Episode 5, titled Parting. This is another morning show, which means I'm sleep deprived and half alive. You got it, and we'll be with you right after the jump. Hello, Scott. How are you doing this morning?
We're here. We're doing good. No complaints, and
Late
lots
night
to
with
talk
the
about.
boys, Mr. Fox. Scott came and hung out with us on the Friday night speakeasy where we had some awesome
I popped
guests.
in for a few minutes, and you guys talk about weird stuff.
You never know, actually, is the mantra of that show, is you never know. And the more people you have on, the more you don't know.
Well, the stranger the content usually becomes.
Yeah.
As the couple times I have jumped into the later night ones, I'm always like, wow.
Because like you get to divulge for a second. If you get me and Sean talking, we're probably doing pretty good. We're probably, we got some form of ideas of what we're going to talk about. You start adding more people. You tell people they can come on with drinks. And it's just, you don't know.
Well, the more people you add, the depth of movie knowledge that the group has, just
that too.
The random movie pulls you'll get on a sidetrack, like we talked about Val Kilmer, not to sidetrack too much tonight, this morning. We get off on weird tangents. The next thing you know, it's like, what was the original topic? And then you see on the side on the comments, you're like, oh, I did want to say something about that, but we're now like a half hour past it.
That's right.
It's fun though. It was a lot of fun.
So, speaking of Rings of Power, which we talked about a little bit after the show, post-show, just you, me, and Sean a little bit, but
yes,
we're going to get into some pros, cons, if we have any, expectations or speculations and all that good stuff. And for all those things, I lean on Scott. But before we dive deep into the conversation, if you're watching this live or later, please click that like button. Most importantly, if there's something you want to add to the conversation, hit the comments. And if you are new, please subscribe and then click the little bell icon to get alerted of all the videos we have, because we just keep pumping out more things. There's lots of good stuff. We're covering Andor, She-Hulk, House of the Dragon, Rings of Power. And then movies come out too, and it's hard to keep up with all of it. Like I just saw Woman King, and I haven't even gotten to talk about it because there's too much going on. But most importantly, this is amazing how much energy I have considering I haven't touched caffeine yet. Most importantly, tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is Allison Salamoni's birthday party stream. It's going to be lasting at least 4 hours, probably 5, maybe more. We don't know. And there's going to be drinks, games, Jackbox, movie trivia, all kinds of good stuff. Scott, I know you're slammed, but if you have 10 minutes at any point in that window, please pop in, say hi to Allison, and we would appreciate it. And anyone watching this, do the same.
I'll do my best to make a late night appearance.
Perfect.
So you can look forward to that, ladies and gentlemen.
With that, Scott, episode 5 is titled Parting, which seems appropriate. This kind of felt like I will not say filler episode because I didn't feel that way at all, but it felt like the bridging episode. Like I feel like there's a lot of build in the first 4 episodes, and then
totally, yeah, a lot of build up those first 4. I do feel like the title "Partings" is discriminatory to bald people because I have not been able to move my part for quite some time. Actually, I do move my part regularly. It's just this wide. But it did have that distinct feel of this is a bridge episode, right? We've got 3 to go, 8 episodes for the season, at least as to what they have listed. Never know, they could do a Sandman type of thing and throw an extra one in.
Love that.
But in
the style of Ralph Bakshi animation.
Yes, the great part is we had 4 episodes halfway through the season of all this background build, character development stuff. And now we're starting to see plots come together. What's the intent with the Mithril? What was the intent behind the elves? Still don't know exactly who Sauron is. But we finally got to see the character that everyone was flipping out about the Eminem character. We got to see them come on screen. Dressed more as elves than anything else, but we got to see all these different plot lines, the Numenorians moving forward, seeing Pharazôn working behind the scenes to try and take power. All these little things started moving, right? We've got the groundwork laid. Last night's show or Thursday night show or Friday morning show, whatever you want to say it, moved the plot finally. And instead of just develop it, okay, now we're getting to the action portion of it. And we know next week, being that they only have 3 episodes left, next week is where the love you, buddy. I love you too. Okay. The next episode is where basically the battle, like not Sauron, Adar and his army are going to the tower.
We'll start calling him Adaron.
Adaron?
Yeah.
I still believe it is him, and if it's not him, it is somebody else that we have no idea. Yes, I went with the muscles.
There's no guns in Middle Earth, but Scott brought them anyways.
I would not call these guns pea shooters, maybe. But the great thing was we moved a direction. You're correct in your description that this was the bridge episode, because we essentially, this encapsulates the second act, right?
Yes.
Now we're into the meat of the show. This is where all the stuff is going to actually come in. Episode 6 is either the culmination of the second act or the beginning of the third act. Right. And that is where we need it to be, because this is they have so much to do depending on where they're going to cut this season, and how not the fall of Numenor, but how they capture Sauron. Sauron is the one who also teaches the everybody how to make the rings of power and how to do that. So at what part are we going to bridge that? Who's the stranger? Still don't know that. He's learning the language, though.
I will just say Halbrand has some really nice gilding skills.
He is quite the smith. Yeah. Yes. It raises the question: who is he really? There's a lot more about him that we don't know, and I'm wondering if he was maybe one of the people who maybe he had the sword earlier. He was the one hiding it, or maybe he stole something that goes with it. That's what's in his little baggie. There's something in that bag that is of extreme importance.
Or they're really trying to tell us that it is. There's a lot of focus on it.
The fact that he puts it down, doesn't want to take it, and then reaches back, scoops it up, and then he comes out with this really nice armor on, and cleans up so nicely once he's on a horse with armor on.
Good looking dude.
It's just one of these things where they have intentionally laid a lot of false trails for characters. Adar, there's a high likelihood he is just a henchman or a main general for Sauron.
He seems to feel really entitled to some form of power, and usually people that are servants of Sauron are very much like, willing servants. You say Sauron to him and he's like, bah!
Yes. His intensity when he gets called, and he actually gets called Sauron in this episode. But also we know that Sauron does not like to be called Sauron.
That's fair.
It bothers him. He intentionally disguises himself as Morgoth in the giant suit with the helm that goes up spiky and everything. That is made to look like the original Dark Lord Morgoth, because he wants to instill fear in everybody. And so he does that with the intention of people thinking that the actual Dark Lord has come back. So he doesn't allow himself to be called Sauron by anybody almost. Most of the orcs know him by, in the book, a lot of them know him by Lugberts, or as a orcish name for him. The elves call him Gorthauer. He's got a lot of different names that people call him, but he doesn't willingly like to be called Sauron at all. So that's lots of extra little things. And I love that he goes, when the old man calls him Sauron, and he goes, "You are Sauron, right? Wait, who are you?" And there's the confusion portion of like, wait a minute, who am I bowing down to? And then Adar makes him say, gonna bond himself to him and kneel, he's like, all right, a bond is only sealed with blood. Nice intense moment. Of course, we don't get to see whether they did it or not.
I will apologize if you can still hear me. My internet is giving me warnings right now, even with the Ethernet cable and everything plugged in. So we're gonna run our best here. Yeah. Okay. So highlights of the show for me, honestly, is I get excited whenever, as much as we're all interested, is like who's Adar, who's Sauron, stuff like that. Right now, my mystery that I'm super attached to is the Stranger, and seeing more of that and watching him fend off the wargs and in turn protect the Harfoots was probably the highlight of the episode for me. And every time we get some more intrigue with the Stranger and it cuts away, I'm always like leaning forward, like, no, okay.
It's 100%. When he slaps the ground and sends the shockwave to blow all the wargs back, it was pretty awesome. Definitely one of the wizards. The question is that Sauron? Is it? And he's struggling with figuring out, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Nori is the one trying to help reaffirm him to be like, no, you're good. You're not bad. You're trying to help. You're a good man. And so I like kind of the arc they're taking with him, because he wasn't sent with full knowledge of everything. He has to learn about Middle Earth and about these people and be part of that process. So I think that's bodes well for him. It's also one of those things where I think revealing a little of his power, he also scared the crud out of Nori. But can we skip back?
The ice stuff. Yeah, but yeah, we'll go back.
I just want to skip back a little bit. I was just reminded of not all those that wander are lost. The song was so beautiful that Poppy was singing. Music. It was such a good song. I was listening to it. I'm like, man, this is. And when it came to the line of "not all who wander are lost," I was like, and it's not just that. It's not all who wander are lost. And I love that they played on the. It's not just about wandering in the wilderness. It's also about wondering about what's going on, and I that song was beautifully done, well timed in the show. Helped kind of bridge the gap as they showed the migration and everything. And then everyone's wanting to get rid of the guy because the forest is done, and then he kills the wargs, and they're like, "Okay, bring him back in. We need this guy. Like, keep him with us. He's a safe man.
Is their secret weapon? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And
always handy to have a almost 7 foot tall wizard.
And going back to kind of our humans in the story outside of the Númenóreans, I forget the name of the town that they're from, but where Bronwyn and Arondir are. Bronwyn is trying to rally the troops, trying to get people to be brave, stand up, and fight against the enemy, the seemingly nameless enemy, because nobody knows who it is. They just know bad is coming.
The frustration there for her, I felt so bad, because if you get one person to support you in a group, it will rally momentum, right? Momentum builds. And she got the one hand to raise. And next thing you know, people are stepping forward like, we'll fight, we'll stay, we'll fight. And then it takes one person. Hey, I love you guys. All right. Hey, I'm recording. Love you.
Hello.
Bye.
Then
These are all our other
yes, these are the hobbits that live in my house.
Scott calls it the Dire.
Yeah. So she gets the momentum going with the one hand going up, which is hugely powerful and builds. But then one person stepping out to say no is so disappointing, because half the people then, when that one guy's like, hey, no, let's go bow down to him and save ourselves and live, and it takes half the crew. May I hear you? I'll be right there. I agree. Finally, at the end, they see that coming together. I feel like, though, it's just going to be Arondir getting killed somewhere. Anyways. I still feel like he's the sacrificial. He's going to die to save Theo. Oh, and he gave the sword. Theo finally relieved the sword and gave it to Arondir, so he's not the one wielding it anymore, which is good. Get it out of that kid's hands, because that thing is tainted. Bad.
is bad news.
Yes.
Yeah, interested to see where Arondir takes that blade, and then Galadriel and Halbrand, they've made their way to Middle Earth. We
Or
don't
they're making their
really,
way.
yes, yes. We don't really know where the Harfoots are going. I'm sure their storyline is going to mesh with somebody else's at some point, because they're just the Wanderers, right? And they happen to have the Stranger. That has to come into play at some point. We have to get the next step in that. That's the only one. That's pretty much the only storyline I think in this episode that treaded a little bit of water. As much as I loved the stuff with the Stranger, we're not physically going anywhere or closer anywhere that we know of, and of course until something actually happens.
Yeah, the big question is it, and what is their intention, and also how is he going to transition from helping there to helping in the other areas? I'm with you. The character of the Stranger seems to me like the one that not only asks the most questions, but also I'm most excited to see how he develops, but also how do we bridge the gap? Like the Harfoots are deathly afraid of men. Well, how does the Stranger transition from helping them to helping men?
Yes.
And it's possible that won't even be this season.
And, I was saying that the moment with the Stranger, the warg, was like the highlight of the episode for me, and it was really great. But I am glancing over Galadriel just wiping the floor with all the Numenorian training soldiers.
Yes.
I think that was one of my favorite scenes in the show so far.
It was almost as though they had never been trained on anything.
That's true.
And
slightly inept.
Yes. But yeah, that's a like I don't want to say they're inept, but she does give him a serious whooping, but that gets Valandil the spot back on the ship, which also between he and his and Isildur's dad Elendil gets Isildur a spot in the end going on the ship. Can I just say also Elendil's helm with the wings on
it's really cool.
Holy mackerel, man! They've done so much just right in this show. We can talk about Tolkien lore and the plot lines and how they change things all day long.
Right.
The costume sets, music, score, all of it is just beautiful. And we haven't even talked about the fact that Elrond and Durin have
we got to talk about Elrond and Durin.
Yes. There seems to be a lot of gamesmanship and kind of manipulation going on in these relationships. Durin is intentionally allowing himself to be courted to figure out what's going on.
I love him playing him for the stone table.
Oh, totally. Well done. Yeah.
He said, we use the stone for like only the most sacred things, burials and this, that, and the other thing. They send it back with him, and he's like, I made that up.
Yeah. Kello, I love that. So Gil-galad knows about Mithril, or that they have it, and they're trying to seek this out. There's the question being, okay, what's the intention? I love the story and the way they showed it about the battle with the Balrog and the elf, which happened with Glorfindel is battles them, and they in the book it's not really around a tree, but whatever. They've interpreted it in a different way to explain it, where the mithril comes from. I did love that they said that it was an elf warrior whose heart was as pure as Manwë. And Manwë, under Eru Ilúvatar, who's God, there are the Valar, and the king of the Valar is Manwë. He is the closest in mind and will to Ilúvatar. And so it's beautiful that they talk about this elf warrior as having a heart as pure as Manwë's, which is... Every time they reference the Valar, it just makes my heart happy.
Again, I wish I could watch these. I mean, I guess that's what the reaction's for, and we will have another reaction for episode 5 coming up on the channel here within the next couple days. But I just want to, every time there's a name drop, just Scott going,
oh yes, it literally makes me feel like okay, they're doing this justice, right? They're they're not just throwing stuff at the screen to try and make sure it works. They spent time developing the story and building these characters and tying in the Tolkien lore in with this, which is great. That's exactly what we were hoping for. But we find out that Celebrimbor, oh man, when he manipulates Elrond, so he tells Elrond that he needs to go, and basically Elrond refuses to give up his oath that he made to his friend, right?
Yeah.
And Celebrimbor twists him by saying, I was there when your father sailed for Valinor to go plead on behalf of elves and men, and basically puts it to him as the reason that Arendelle, his father, was able to do that is because he was the only one who could do it. He was the only one, half elf, half man, that could do this. Which, by the way, you know what? That's a sidetrack. The reason he was able to do it is because he's the only one, which then puts the pressure on. And then he pats Elrond on the shoulder when he says that, saying, "Hey, you're the only one who can convince the dwarves to let us have the mithril. So that's why you're here." And it's such a heavy thing to be put on him. And then this idea that the lives of the elves is tied to mithril, I'm not sure where they're going with that, because that's not really tied in any way, shape, or form, unless they're talking about the life of the Eldar, the elves, being eventually that magic gets tied to the rings. And as the Ring of Power is destroyed later on,
with the elves via the rings could be an extension of life or an excuse to why they have mithril in the rings for the elves.
Very possible. Also, mithril is used. You can basically lace it with pure moonlight, which is how come the doors of Moria are laced with invisible writing. Well, it's with mithril, and in the moonlight it shines, and that's all done based off of mithril. Celebrimbor also makes that. He makes the 3 elven rings. So there's a lot there. I'm just curious about why they tied it that way. But if that is the case, the ability to tie power into rings is taught to the elves by Sauron. So is Sauron already in Eregion?
I don't know. Will we get any rings by the season finale of the first season of Rings of Power?
No. I don't think so. That is too far to go in 3 episodes. Right? It's too far. I think we're going to see Miriel overthrown by Pharazôn. We're going to see whatever happens to Halbrand is probably going to happen. I think if the Númenóreans win and Sauron is captured and taken back to Númenor, which also happens in the lore, then we'll see Galadriel grateful for the victory and maybe settle down a little bit.
She is remaining unsettled right now.
Yes, she's still very fired up about stuff.
Halbrand asks, see why do you keep fighting? She says, because I can't stop. Or
she said that the people who sent her away could no longer tell the difference between her and the darkness she was hunting. Because she's so obsessed with killing Sauron. So how are they going to tie that together? There's a lot of little pieces, because she ends up one of the wisest people, and is gifted with one of the rings after Celebrimbor makes them. So, at one point in time, actually, all the rings are given by Celebrimbor to Gil-galad, and Gil-galad gives them out to Elrond, Galadriel, and Círdan. So, we still haven't even seen Círdan. Maybe they'll just skip over him and give it straight to Gandalf. He wears the fire, or the ring of fire.
But
is gold with a red.
There's a line about that when he's fighting the Balrog, right? When it says, like, I'm the keeper of the secret fire. Or
no, the keeper of the secret fire. The secret fire is the fire inside of Eru Ilúvatar, which is the flame that fuels all of Earth. You got to go back to the beginning of the Silmarillion for that. Yes. The more you know.
I feel like the more I know, the more I find out that I know less.
It's ridiculous sometimes. I just finished. So, yeah, that whole relationship with Durin, but we know Durin is trying to help. And I love that when Durin goes, we're jumping around a lot, but when Durin goes, the fate of the all elves is in my hands. And then he gets a smirk and he's like, whose hands?
Yeah.
My hands. And you could tell that he's almost gloating over Elrond. Like, that's right. You need me, baby. I'm in control. Which he loves being in the driver's seat.
Well, they are, not only are dwarves incredibly stubborn, but they're very proud. And to be able to have the fate of an entire race be in your hands is a feeling of pride and power. And, for so many people that look down on the dwarves, figuratively and literally, to give them that amount of power or feeling of need, I think Elrond is very sincere, but then also I think knows what to say and who to say it to.
Yes.
He's very intentional. I'll say that.
Oh, 100%. He carefully calculates every word, and he is also the wisest in Middle-earth and the greatest lore master in Middle-earth. And so he knows more about all of the histories and everything than anyone else. And he's considered to be the wisest as far as discerning what's going on. Also, knows how to read moon or dwarvish runes that are hidden in maps that are, can only be read. If we go back to the Hobbit, they can only be read under the correct light, correct day that it was written in. All these secret things about the magic of Middle Earth is one of those things that makes you really endeared towards Elrond. The one thing that I do really like also is I feel like I'm a hardcore Hugo Weaving fan.
Sure.
But I'm really starting to like, why am I blanking on the actor's name? I got it written down here somewhere. Not Arroyo. Either way, the actor who's playing Elrond, I'm starting to really like the way he's portraying the character, and it's growing on me heavily. So
I like. I'm really enjoying the entirety of the cast and story and stuff like that, and I'm excited to see how it wraps up. 3 more episodes, like we're predicting, seems to be the third act. The preview they had for the next episode, it feels like everything's been building to these conflicts. Hello, excuse me. There's a cat.
My kid's running through the room screaming. Your kid jumping on the computer.
That's true. Say hi, Maverick. Look how mad he is. That's what happens. You jump on the desk, you get caught. All right. Well, is there any last things that you want to cover, discuss, go over really quick before we wrap up the episode and go on with our Saturday?
I did love the giant rock statue, like carving of Morgoth on the wall.
Yeah,
pretty sweet. And that sword is a sword. I'm assuming. I almost wanted to call it the Necro Sword, but that's a different franchise. But I love that carving and the idea that Sauron is a shadow or a form of Morgoth in what he was. And my prediction, so the next episode, I feel like we're going to have this standoff battle between the orcs and the tower with the Númenóreans coming behind to catch. And that's how they're going to catch Sauron in the web.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I'm really excited to see that. I want to see Galadriel slay some orcs. And if I get to see Galadriel and Arondir in the same scene fighting orcs, I'm set for the whole episode.
Well, I also really liked Arondir teaching Theo how to shoot archery. I spent 200 years perfecting my technique. You've learned it at only 14. That's a good words of wisdom, and also kind of a quick move to endear him, because Theo did not like Arondir right at the beginning because he's an elf. But for that change to happen and for Theo to then be like, okay, I can trust you with giving you this sword because this thing's evil. It gave me hope for this young man that he's not doomed. Because my fear was when he found the sword that he was going to somehow get tied up and get killed in all of this. Still feel like Arondir is the sacrificial lamb. But he's so likable, man. Keep him alive. Keep that character going as long as possible.
Get us at least through the season.
Yes.
Need more.
Oh yeah. Very end of the final episode to have him.
No.
Stop saying that, Scott. But hey, you've seen enough movies. I've seen enough movies, and writers are writers. They love that kind of stuff. Build the emotion, and then snip, you're dead.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up our thoughts for Rings of Power, ending on a dour note. Thank you, Scott.
No, I think it's still going to be awesome. Absolutely awesome.
We will be back next Fridays for Speakeasy and Saturday once again for Rings of Power episode 6. But again, tonight, Allison Salomoni's birthday party. It's going to be a blast, so make sure you are there for that. But thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate the community. You guys are great, fantastic, and we will always love talking Rings of Power with anyone that will speak civilly with us. All right, guys. Until next time, keep it real. Bye-bye.